Now, Ghana has a new holiday. The president has issued an executive instrument for August 4 to be marked as Founders Day. September 21, formerly referred to as Founders Day, is now Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Day. And on August 4, 1897, the Aborigines Rights Protection Society, ARPS, was formed. And 50 years later, on August 4, 1947, Ghana's first political party, United Gold Coast Convention, UGCC, was formed. Now, these two events are seen as defining moments in Ghana's independence struggle, hence the selection of August 4 as Founders Day. The announcement, however, met with resistance from Nkrumahist parties in Ghana, who see the holiday as an attempt to undermine the legacy of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. We have been joined by the Communications Director of the Convention People's Party, CPP, Abdul Rauf Kadri. Welcome, sir. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you. It's my pleasure for being here. Yeah.
So many will think that this could bring an end to the controversy around commemorating our founders on a particular day.
Well, rather, first of all, let me say a very good afternoon to the cherished viewers, and to state very emphatically that the Convention People's Party, this decision of the president has not come to us as something surprising. You know, to the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, this is not about the history of Ghana, it is about his ancestry. Okay. So, for example, when you look at the argument that has been put forth against, you find that it's lame, it's completely flawed. It has no historical basis. So, for example, when you look at the year on which the Aboriginal Right Protection Society was formed, and you look at the motto or the objective of the Aboriginal Right Protection Society, it was very clear that they actually wanted to send a clear signal to the whites that there was no free land in the Gold Coast. And for that matter, those lands belong to communities and they belong to the people which were held in trust by the chiefs. Their objective was not to win independence for Ghana. They just wanted certain social and constitutional changes in their land of birth. Now let's look at the objective for the formation of the UGCC on 4th August 1947. It was formed with the motto that they wanted self-government within the shortest possible time. And you recall very clearly that this idea of self-government within the shortest possible time was the same understanding in South Africa, and they got their independence in 1993. So if we were to go by the argument that short government within the shortest possible time, probably our independence would have been delayed significantly. Now, if you go into the history and study the history fairly, you would realize that there cannot be any founders in this country. We have only one founder. Two events happened running up to the independence of Ghana that actually set the effective tone for the independence of Ghana. One had to do with the 1948 riots. And after the riot, we also, everybody that were there, and then the history tells us quite clearly what happened. When the colonial authorities started mass arrest, virtually every member of the UGCC denounced Kwame Nkrumah. They denied responsibility. They said that it was that communist agitator, I'm quoting the word of J.B. Dankwa, that they had nothing to do with this whatsoever. It was that communist agitator, Kwame Nkrumah, who instigated and inspired what happened, and that he should be dealt with, not them. And we all know that it was the 1948 riot that brought the last bullet that entered imperial powers in Ghana and Africa for that matter. And in this particular event, they dissociated themselves from it. So how can there be founders? If actually they were to be founders, then they should have associated themselves with that event, but they said, no, we know nothing about it. It is only Kwame Nkrumah, and get him arrested, that communist agitator. And J.B. Dankwa even told Kwame Nkrumah that you think wearing Batakali and moving around in the Gold Coast can win independence for the people of this country. This is one of the events. And apart from that, there has been several historical events. So, for example, a delegation was sent by the UGCC to the UK, telling the Queen to delay the independence of Ghana. And in the words of those people that went to the UK, they said that the colonial experiment with Ghana was not yet over. And for that matter, who were not ready for self-government. Well, so how can these people be given any credit for the independence of Ghana to be called founders of the country? That is a
let's begin from the beginning of the statements you made. The reason for the formation of the Aboriginal Rights Protection Society. Okay. This was acknowledged in the statements from the presidency that it was indeed formed to make sure that the land belonged basically to the locals at the time, the indigents of the land at the time. It's believed by the presidency, the framers of this new executive instrument, that was what started it all, really, because of that, we did not face the same problems that happened in southern and eastern Africa, where a white minority was seizing the lands belonging to the locals. If you take an example of a nation like Zimbabwe, where you find that a lot of the lands became property of the whites, they believe that this is still a very key critical element that played a historical antecedent to everything that happened later.
Yeah, that is very correct. And the CPP has never said this wasn't the case, because the role that the Aboriginal Right Protection Society played, the role that even Fanti Confederacy, the role that virtually National Congress of British West Africa, the role WASU, all these things played towards the independence of Ghana stands tall, and it cannot be minimized or underrated in any serious analysis. But we are saying that one fact still stands very clear. The objective was very clear. They said that we wanted, certain social and constitutional changes, and importantly, they wanted representation in the executive and the legislative council of their land of birth. But when Kwame Nkrumah came back from the UK, Kwame Nkrumah said that we wanted independence now. We prefer self-government with danger to servitude in tranquility. It was very clear, and that was a defining moment.
Abdul, you stated when you were describing the 1948 riots that that was the last bullet. I'm using your words.
Sure.
That was the last bullet.
Yeah.
That suggests, like we have been trying to portray in the last conversation, that it cannot be one event that brought independence to Ghana. It started somewhere and it ended somewhere. It looks like this institution of this holiday, which the president's statement implies, is trying to acknowledge, okay, everybody who played a role, including Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who has now been given a separate day to his own legacy.
It doesn't happen that way. In fact, to do things this way is not only an exercise of convenience, but it is also, it vitiates the principles of history. So, for example, do you have an idea, or can you quantify the contribution that the youth who were at the forefront of the independence struggle played towards the decolonization of Ghana? You cannot quantify it. But why is it that their names are not mentioned? Because that is not consistent with the principles of history. Usually, it takes the struggles of so many people for the independence of a particular nation, but it takes one arrowhead who will climax the struggle of so many people. And in Ghana, it was Kwame Nkrumah. And that cannot be shared. It's indivisible. So for any person to say that we do not have founder, we have founders, we think that it is an exercise of great mischief. And the CPP take great exception to that. And we have made it very clear.
But the birthday, which will be in a few days, of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah is now a holiday in his memorial.
Look,
will that not be enough to honor his legacy?
Look,
would that
even
not
when
be
we
a greater
talk about
honor?
the honoring of Kwame Nkrumah, it is not for me, nor the Convention People's Party, nor for any other person to want to honor Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah lived his life and honored himself, and his work speaks it all. Every part of the world that you go, people glorify Kwame Nkrumah. So it is not for that executive instrument issued by Nana Akufo-Addo that is going to glorify Kwame Nkrumah. He's been glorified already. We are talking about the history of our country, which is under attack from the MPP led by Nana Akufo-Addo. We are talking about the issue where there is a deliberate policy, to undermine and underrate the history of the country, which was coordinated and led by Kwame Nkrumah. And that is the point of contention, and not about honoring Kwame Nkrumah. Because all the arguments that they put forward, for example, I mentioned the fact that there were several events that brought about the independence of Ghana. And in all these events, the UGCC always missed out. So, for example, even the day that Kwame Nkrumah presented the motion of destiny that ushered in the independence of this country, they walked out of parliament. All these historical events, and you also recall that virtually all the elections that were fought running up to the independence of Ghana were fought on issues. So, in all the issues, the UGCC, they lost. So, they cannot be prided, they cannot be given any accolade concerning the foundation of Ghana.
But on those two events, which fell on August 4, 1897, and 1947, you will admit that the things that happened played key roles in the independence of the country. In 1897, the Aborigines Rights Protection Society was formed. You have made mention of how important it was. In 1947, the UGCC was formed, which party Kwame Nkrumah became General Secretary of.
Now, you see, it is not just about the formation. It's about the intent and the purpose. So, for example, the UGCC was formed with a view that we wanted self-government. But we still prefer to drink tea and play long tennis with the colonial authorities. And Kwame Nkrumah told them, no, check the history of the world. You can never win independence for the people if you are to drink tea and play long tennis with the colonial authority. Because independence is not a commodity that upon demand it is given. It is something that you have got to struggle for. and they were not prepared to struggle. So Kwame Nkrumah pulled away, formed the Convention People's Party, and they fought hard and brought the independence of Ghana.
So in your view, no one else deserves to be honored as having contributed to the founding of our nation?
We are saying that people's effort must be recognized. Even the youth in all parts of the country that were chanting, in Accra, in Kumasi, who were chanting that independence, independence now, along with Kwame Nkrumah, they should also be recognized. And we are saying that the role that other people like Pa Grant, J.B. Dankwa, name them all played, is something that should be recognized. But in tandem with principles of history, we cannot say that they are the founders of the country. Because even if you wake them from their graves today and ask them, they will tell you that they were not fair, they were not actually sincere to the struggle. It was only Kwame Nkrumah. Because I remember, in one of the rallies, in one of the rallies, J.B. Dankwa said to the people that even if all of us disappoint you, Kwame Nkrumah will never disappoint you. This is the word of J.B. Dankwa. That even if all of us so he admitted that along the line they can disappoint the people, but Kwame Nkrumah will never disappoint you.
Right. So Kadri, you agree that they should be honored. Beyond August 4, apart from that, what other way do you think they should be honored? These other contributors.
They have already been honored significantly. The mere fact that their images appear on the currency of the country, the mere fact that monuments have been built across the country, you know, in their this is a huge honor. I think that serves them, because whether you like it or not, from the school of thought of the Convention People's Party, we see them as great statesmen. You can't take it away from them. But to talk about the foundation of Ghana, for example, when Kwame Nkrumah wanted to cut part of Northern Volta and the Northern region to be part, they debated against him. They said that no. And I even remember a letter that was written by J.B. Dankwa to Sept of the Achimabwaka, Youth Association. He told them that, look, if Kwame Nkrumah wants to make Ghana a unitary state, it means that the process of cocoa will be used in financing all the projects that he wants to do. And that in making the process of cocoa finance Ghana, you are denying them of the full enjoyment of their allotted right. This was his argument.
Right. Finally, Kadri, right now this executive instrument has been issued. What is the CPP calling on the president to do? What do you expect to happen now?
We are not surprised by that decision. So from the very first day Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo was sworn in, his posture was very clear. He actually came, like I said, it is not about the history of Ghana. It is about defending his ancestry. And we know that there is nothing. It's just like the elephant on its way to the bush. You cannot prevent it. But one thing is that this is going to be a temporary gain. In future, when CPP or any other party that thinks that Kwame Nkrumah is the only person fit to be accorded the founder of this country, that decision will be reversed.
So you believe a future government will reverse this decision?
Most definitely. It will be reversed. It is a temporary gain. It is not a gain that is going to be there forever. Yes, he actually has the authority of the state at the moment, and he can do what he pleases. But I say very clearly that this decision will be challenged. It will be contested. Because accepting this decision is going to be a great injustice to the history of this country. And in the end, it is usually the truth that wins. No matter what you do, the truth will win.
But is there no other way that you would like to contest this decision?
Look, at the moment, I'm telling you that when the elephant is on its way to the bush, who can stop it? He wields the executive powers of the state, and he has parliamentary majority. He can do what he pleases. But I am telling you that it will be contested. It will be challenged. Mark it on this one. In the
By
future
who?
to come.
By the CPP?
The CPP will challenge it. And the government that reason, that thinks that Kwame Nkrumah is the only person fit to be given that particular title, will challenge it.
How will the CPP challenge it?
We will challenge it when we get to power. It's just a matter of reversing the decision. Simple.
But I mean, before that happens, I mean, is there no way that the CPP would consider maybe legal action, maybe mass protests?
This is not amenable to the justice process. This is not something that you go to court. What we can do is what we are doing. We have taken the pain to explain very clearly to the masses of the people of Ghana that their understanding, I mean the MPP UGCC understanding of the history of Ghana is twisted. Undoubtedly, it's a twisted understanding of the history. And that they are presenting the side of the history, that thing was what actually happened. And we are saying that is not the case. And what we say is events, facts, and figures back our position. And I tell you most solemnly that this is going to be a temporary gain for the MPP. It will be challenged, and this decision will be reversed in future. Because it has never happened in the world, anywhere where, untruth has ever defeated truth. It has never happened. And in the end, the truth is going to win. Because if you, like I said, if you wake them up from their graves one by one and ask them, they will tell you that, look, give it to Kwame Nkrumah. We don't deserve it, because they know in their heart of heart that they don't deserve it.
You seem very convinced about this whole thing.
Yeah, because I'm fortified by the history.
The argument also lies that, like I've mentioned before, these are persons who have played their role. And by your measure, putting a monument somewhere should be enough. But by another person's measure, this is these are people who deserve to have a whole day in their honor.
Okay, so I think that the best way that we can resolve this issue as a people or as a state is for the president to open a national debate so that the people would actually draw curtains, who would draw finality to this matter. But for example, if you think that you are holding the executive powers of the state and you want to take any decision that you think is going to float your boat, in future another person will hold executive power and also reverse it. So if he wants us to resolve this matter once and for all, they should open national debates. Let it be argued across the country and let the people of Ghana take a position on the matter, and that will be final. But if you want to use the, the advantage of executive authority to just, issue an instrument, yes, you can do that, but it will be temporal because it will be challenged. But if we open up and the people themselves debate it, open all the radio stations, the TV stations, call us, call them, let's come and debate the issue. Let's take the people of Ghana, those who do not have access to the history, let's take them back into historical lane. Let's go, let's do the analysis fairly and factually. You will see that we are going to win the day. And that is why they don't want to open national debate on this matter.
And if you lose, what happens?
We are not going to lose because we are standing on the side of truth. That is why Nana Akufo-Addo and his team, they can't open it for debate because they know very well. Even Paul Adumochuru, who went and did that essay, he cannot debate. When he was debating with Mr. Pratt the other time, they need to see that he was struggling because he knows that what he's saying is just an enterprise of convenience.
Right. Thank you very much, Abdul Rauf Kadri, for your words. He is the communications director for the Convention People's Party, CPP, determined to reverse the decision made by the president.